Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Netstar CPD webinar and the launch of the Netstar CPD Hub. My name is Hagen Engler. I'm from Ogilvy PR, and we are the PR partners of Netstar. Netstar are pioneers of the telematics industry in South Africa, which is primarily focused around stolen vehicle recovery and fleet management, fleet analytics for the small and medium enterprises, as well as large commercial businesses. And as such, they've gained quite a lot of insight into the value of telematics, which is actually quite closely aligned to the Internet of Things. So in a lot of ways, it was the precursor of IoT and allows us to gain quite good insights into consumer behavior and also driver behavior, and provides great opportunities for insurance in terms of tailoring claims and tailoring premiums to users because of the insights that we gain from telematics. So we've got quite a nice turnout. I believe we've got a few hundred people here. So welcome to the webinar and, as I say, the launch of the CPD Hub, which is a hub created by Netstar to provide content around telematics and how it applies to insurance. So I'll introduce our three speakers today in today's 1-hour webinar. We're going to have Belinda Felix up first. She's the General Manager Insurance for Netstar, talking about the Netstar CPD Hub itself. She'll be followed by Dr. Kirshen Pillay of the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences, and finally Lindile Xoko, who's the Executive Sales Director of Netstar. So three speakers. If I can just ask you to place any questions you might have in the Q&A, and we'll get to those at the end of Lindile's presentation. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce Belinda Felix, General Manager Insurance for Netstar, and she's going to be talking about the Netstar CPD Hub. Welcome, Belinda.
Thanks, Hagen. Thanks for the introduction. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. We're very excited to share this initiative. It's 15 months in the making. There's been a lot of thought process put into it, and we're really, really excited to share this program with you. Next slide, please. So with your CPD, as you know, with regards to financial services provider, you have to do a certain amount of hours to get points every year. So at Netstar, we decided, how can we give back to our partners who have been insurers and brokers for many, many years? So to obtain the CPD hours through, your reading of articles, attending seminars and lectures, webinars, and other CPD initiatives, we decided to develop this to be part of that and just to add value where we could. Our annual CPD cycle was usually run from the 1st of June to the 31st of May of the next year, but due to COVID-19, this cycle starts 1st of September and ends on the 31st of May this year. So we're right in time to launch it, and you've got the next couple of months to go through the program and just to enjoy the content that we've actually developed for you. Next slide, please. Why a Netstar CPD Hub? Like I explained, we've always been in the insurance industry for many, many years, and its unique CPD Hub supports financial services provided in fulfilling the annual CPD requirements. The Hub is an online platform, and it's auto-managed CPD accreditation and houses industry-related articles and questionnaires with expert comments from ourselves at Netstar and other industry experts. This is also in line with the new way of working where everybody's working from home, and it makes it easier. It's really user-friendly, and it also will explain how we can mitigate risk not only for you as insurers, but for brokers and for our consumers at the end, because the safety of our consumers is our core business. Netstar will be the only tracking company offering a CPD platform, educating financial services professionals on the workings of tracking, telematics, insurance while you receive your CPD hours in return, and hopefully also creating awareness to how powerful our data is in mitigating risk and safety as well for the consumers. Next slide, please. So it's a very unique telematics CPD platform because everything that we've done and the programs that we've done revolve around telemetry and tracking. It's accredited for 6 CPD hours on short-term insurance. The registration for sponsored CPD program are limited to 750 applicants for the first round. Please note that the sponsored CPD programs are limited to 10 reps per FSP company to ensure that we pay it forward to the entire industry, and that 750 applications would be able to get around. Those who would want to further their CPD training after having completed and sponsored CPD program can do so at a 10% discounted rate that Netstar would be subsidizing for you. Next slide. So the CPD program details. There are 3 programs and they all relate to short-term insurance, around the role of telematics in insurance, around the vehicles the criminals want and what they look for and how and why they're looking for them. And then obviously it's got to do with the data and how we can transfer that data to use it in a more sexy way in the insurance industry, if it is driver behavior, if it is driving down total operating costs for assets. So those are the programs that we have in this GIFTS platform for you. Next slide, please. How you'll be able to apply. A link will be sent to you, and then you will actually then receive an email to let you know if your application was successful after you have applied on the link. If successful, the login details will be sent to you directly on email, and then you can log into the system and click through the programs and have a look and see how we've set it up for you. You would upload a copy of your ID document and you'll be granted access to the articles and activities. And once the activity is complete, you'll be presented with an automated CPD statement of hours, which obviously you would have to refer to the FSCA so they know that you've got your 6 hours from us. Once done the 6-hour course, you will have the option to acquire further CPD hours at a discounted rate, as stated previously, that we would subsidize as Netstar for you. Next slide, please. As part of the support campaign, Netstar is also going to be sponsoring the digital magazines and CPD framework of key industry publications that you'll be seeing in either Cover, FIA Insights, and FA News. Industry media continues to play an integral role in the education of industry professionals and general upliftment of the entire industry. So we're offering access to quality CPD content. Next slide, please. As stated previously, insurers, brokers, our consumers have always been an integral part of our business and our key stakeholders within our business, and we wanted to give back and add value. And our partners play a massive and crucial role in ensuring our customers receive the best advice and products, which is why we've thrown our weight behind the CPD support campaign. By supporting the professional and development growth in our insurance partners, we support the growth in the entire industry. This is our way of saying thank you to everybody, and we'll be sharing all the details of the CPD program right after the webinar. And thank you for participating, and enjoy the rest of the program. Over to you, Hagen.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Belinda. Just to reiterate to our brokers and insurers and the media who are joining us, the link that Belinda shared, where you can apply for the CPD course, will appear again at the end of the webinar, and we will also be copying most of you in on the media release around the CPD Hub, just so that you have all that information in one place. That brings us to our second speaker for today's webinar, and launch of the Netstar CPD Hub. We're going to be hearing from Dr. Kirshan Pillay, who is CEO of the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences, or GIFS. He's going to be talking about the crucial shifting role of online learning, and he's going to be touching on some of the matters which affect e-learning and its recent rise in popularity. So over to you, Kirshan.
Thank you, Hagen. Who here remembers Childcraft, or perhaps the encyclopedia? Or better yet, how many of you remember having to photocopy from the library for projects and assignments? How times have changed. Today, thanks to Google, we have become honorary doctors, cordon bleu chefs, and, well, experts on everything. With information being a click away, my topic for today is the crucial shifting role of online learning. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dr. Kirshan Pillay, and I am the CEO of the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences, fondly referred to as GIFS. Without sounding like a chappie's bubblegum wrapper, did you know that the corporate global e-learning market will be worth $336 billion by 2026? Digital learning is the fastest growing market in the educational sector, with a whopping 900% growth rate since 2000. With stats like this, the shift to online learning over traditional learning is irrefutable. So I'd like to hear from you. Put your comments in the Q&A box and we will respond to it later in the day. What do you think is causing the shift toward online learning? For those of you who answered money, yes, money is playing a critical part in pioneering this shift. Through the introduction of online learning, IBM has saved $200 million last year, which accounted for 30% of their previous year's training budget. IBM's managers learned 5 times more content at a third of the price. It's no wonder we're seeing an increasing shift toward online learning, because you're getting more bang for your buck. But money is not the main reason we are seeing this exponential shift toward online learning over traditional learning. Most people place more value on their time than on money. Time is the leading driver to online learning. So again, what are your thoughts on this? Drop me your comments in the chat box. I would like to know from you, who here believes that we do not have enough time in our day? So looking forward to seeing your responses towards the end. For those of you who answered yes, you would be correct. It's not made up. You're not crazy. Time is flying quicker this year than ever before, as the Earth is spinning around faster than it has in half a century. This means each day on the blue planet is now shorter than 24 hours. Each day on the blue planet is now shorter than 24 hours, owing to the increase in speed of the Earth's rotation over the last 5 decades. Crazy, right? Furthermore, in a recent KPMG report, now that I'm saying this out aloud, I don't know if quoting KPMG will help my case, but nevertheless, here goes. In a recent KPMG report, employees' lack of time to dedicate towards learning is the #1 challenge facing talent development today. This was further supported by Josh Bersin, world-known industry analyst, educator, and thought leader on all things HR, who stated in his 2020 report that on average, employees only have 24 minutes per work week to spend on learning. On average, employees only have 24 minutes to spend on learning per work week. If we look at traditional modes of learning, such as in-classroom learning, with less than 24 hours in a day and only 24 minutes per week to dedicate to employer-driven training, traditional modes of learning are rendered redundant, as online learning has proven to take up to 60% less time than traditional learning. So far, we understand that the shift towards online learning is related to time and to money. But let's look at some other factors that are also influencing this crucial shift towards online learning. I'm sure we can all agree that COVID-19 is another factor that has played a catalytic role in the shift toward online learning. So while we're on the topic of COVID-19, I'm sure you'll agree with me that we all became instant doctors through online learning, from YouTubing whether we have the symptoms, to what our oxygen levels should be, to what medication we should be taking. We learned this through easy-to-watch videos, which took healthcare professionals a lot longer to learn. Now, in no way am I discounting med school or any form of formal learning, but we can all agree that we learn and we consume information much faster now, thanks to online learning. We now recognize 3 major factors: time, money, and COVID-19 that is causing the shift toward online learning. But there's another factor. This factor has our archaic educational sector losing its classroom-based students to online learning. Does anyone want to take a guess as to what this is? Again, drop your comments in the Q&A box. I would love to hear what your initial thoughts are on this, as to what you think is the reason people are moving, or students are moving, toward online learning. So again, looking forward to seeing what you've written in the Q&A box. So the reason for this steady decline in college enrollment, which is expected to become worse in the late 2020s, is partly due to the rising costs of studies, but more importantly, college degrees are being viewed as less valuable. Yes, college degrees are being viewed as less valuable. And they're saying as we shift closer into the late 2020s, we're going to see a severe shift toward that decline. And this way of thinking has led to the introduction of something called MOOCs. MOOCs, or massive open online courses, is creating accessibility for all. MOOCs are designed to challenge the way we learn and who has access to learn. To give you an example, who here would love to have a qualification from Harvard University, Princeton, or even Yale? Up until recently, this would have been impossible, especially for us South Africans due to the evident geographical location, not to mention the rand-dollar exchange rate. online learning has created accessibility and affordability and amazing innovations such as MOOCs. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the sad reality is that only 73% of the student population has heard about MOOCs. Luckily for you, as of today, you are no longer part of the statistic. Furthermore, here's another one of my did you knows. 22 out of 25 US universities offer free MOOCs. In 2012, Harvard University, together with MIT and other leading universities, created a series of MOOCs for free consumption. Free consumption. So last year, during the level 5 lockdown, I took advantage of this free MOOCs and graduated from Harvard University without leaving my home and at zero cost. Thanks to online learning, we no longer have the excuse that we cannot afford to study. Now stop for a minute and imagine the power that lies in that, and how online learning can change the lives of so many people. Thanks to online learning, we no longer have the excuse that we cannot afford to study, even at establishments like that of Harvard University. Imagine what online learning can do to combat poverty and inequality. When COVID-19 hit last year, we felt the plight of parents and scared scholars, particularly from our government and ex-Model C schools. So through the power of the internet and online learning, GIFs made free learning content available from grade 00 to grade 12 from the best private schools in the country. Talk about accessibility and bridging the divide. So today, I address you very proudly as I commend the Netstar initiative, not only for its service to the insurance industry, but ensuring that they play a part in future-proofing the insurance industry through the power of education. They have achieved this through their very own MOOCs in the form of CPD activities. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving the Netstar team a round of applause. Well done, Team Netstar. We're really, really proud of you. So in conclusion, I leave you with the following: time, money, COVID-19, and undervalued college degrees that challenges the archaic educational system and accessibility are some of the factors that are pushing online learning to the forefront. So the question begs, what does this mean for you and I? What should we be aware of? What should we be doing differently? And how should this inform our decision-making for the future? Not just for us, but for our children and generations to come. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for your time, and thank you so much for your comments and for participating. Looking forward to hearing more. Hagen, over to you.
Thank you, Kirshen, Dr. Kirshen Pillay, CEO of the Graduate Institute of Financial Sciences. And thank you to all of you for your input on the Q&A section. There's been some great feedback. Leonie Blichnout points out that online learning is much better than going to training and being on the road most of the day. And I think most of us can attest to that. I remember earlier on in my career, once being sent off for training for some, I think, management or something, and I spent 3 days at a hotel in downtown Joburg, where we would, have a morning session, then break for lunch, then, an afternoon session, and then probably, call it off somewhere around 4, do that for 3 days in a row. And if we just compare that to the amount of training that we're doing these days, even during the pandemic and the lockdown, I find that I'm actually doing more training more effectively and more efficiently because it's online learning. The whole idea of traveling, hosting venues, feeding people, that's just out the window. It's just more effective, so much less time out of your day, and I think most of us can attest to that. So also, Santi Emmerich points out that convenience and time and money are the main determiners. And then it's some great insights from all of you. So once again, thank you so much for your input. Please keep those questions coming. We're gonna look at anything further at the end of the webinar. And so without any further ado, let's go on to our next speaker. His name is Lindile Koko. He's the Executive Sales Director of Netstar, and he's operationally involved with the nitty-gritty of what Netstar does, which is telematics, tracking vehicles for fleet management, fleet efficiencies, and stolen vehicle and recovery. But there's so much more to it, and because of advances in tracking technology and IoT, there are a vast number of opportunities for insurance to make the insurance offering more efficient for companies, for professionals, and for customers. So Lindile is going to be telling us more about that. So over to you, Lindile.
Thank you, Hagen, Belinda, and Dr. Pillay, and good morning to everyone. Thank you very much for joining us. It's my absolute pleasure to be talking to you this morning, where I'll be delving into how telematics is revolutionizing insurance. It is often said that technology is the great equalizer, and in my own personal experience, it's the best way to deliver value to customers. And if used correctly, technology can be what enables organizations to do just that. And with that, today, if I can ask you to just go to the first slide, please. Thank you. So technology is already redefining insurance. We'll go into how it's doing that. Technology is already embedded in the entire insurance customer journey, for example. We see that insurtech applications are used to make it simpler to buy short-term and on-demand insurance, whereas artificial intelligence is used to calculate risk profiles and premiums. I'll expand on the impact of AI in the insurance sector in just a moment. You also find that disintermediation has become a feature of the industry, as customers are now able to sign themselves up and determine their own needs without having to consult a broker. Therefore, technology has lowered barriers to entry, but it can lead to the commoditization of the customer offering. Therefore, the most successful insurers will be those that use technology to customize their offering for every individual customer. As such, technology can enhance efficiency. Once AI has calculated a customer's needs, for example, there's no need for them to pay for cover that they do not need. You move into an environment where you don't have a vanilla product that cuts across, but you have bespoke, tailored solutions for each individual customer. As data sets grow, insurance can be confident that risk profiles are accurate and that their rates are as reasonable as possible while remaining profitable. And therefore, those efficiencies can be derived across the entire value chain of an insurance organization. Therefore, with fewer barriers to entry, the insurance industry is becoming more competitive. For example, tech startups are partnering with financial institutions to offer insurance products. Medical aid firms are forming insurance partnerships, and there's mergers and acquisitions as well as consolidation around these trends. We've seen that the new digital native entrants are disrupting and forcing incumbents to digitize. Judy, can I ask you to go on mute? Can you go and mute, Didi? Thank you. Danelle, if we can go to the next slide, please. So, but let's take a step back and actually ask, what is telematics? We take for granted that thinking that everyone knows what telematics is or the way that we define these technologies. So let me define it in this way. So telematics is a technology that allows for long distance transmission, computerized information. But in simpler terms, it's simply sharing information wirelessly. And as Hagen has said before, it is in fact the precursor of today's Internet of Things, what's predominantly called the IoT. And Netstar has pioneered the use of telematics in South Africa's vehicle tracking space and has been developing the technology since 1994. Therefore, you will find that within customer relationship, telematics offers the opportunity to, 1, improve customer safety, 2, to reduce risks for clients as well as insurers, 3, to improve business efficiency for fleets, and number 4, enhance the effectiveness of the insurance relationship. So there's a lot that we can derive from the use and correct use, I might add, of these technologies. Danelle, can you please go on to the next slide? Thank you. Now let's talk about the efficiency you can derive through data. For private vehicle tracking and recovery, telematics can be used to monitor several aspects of vehicle use and calculate premiums accordingly. Telematics data can be gathered through digital cameras, sensors, as well as transmitters. This data that can be ingested in a variety of ways can give us insights on the following. For example, the frequency of vehicle use, which is a bearing on wear and tear of the vehicle, but also on propensity for an event to occur, the more frequently used that vehicle is. And similarly on distance traveled. But also destinations, because the reality is some destinations are safer than others. And then driver behavior, where some drivers are riskier than others, such as Hagen, for example, who is a nightmare on South African roads, and therefore should pay a higher premium than myself, who's a better driver than he is. Driver health is also a factor. This is where drivers can be incentivized to follow safer driving practices, with rewards allocated according to performance data gathering through telematics. Drivers who are fitter, healthier, and more responsible will present less risk to themselves as well as others on the roads. This will be cheaper to insure, with financial benefits for themselves as well as a lower propensity to claim. For decades, telematics has been used to track and recover stolen vehicles. This has been refined to such a point where more than 90% of stolen vehicles are recovered within 24 hours. Telematic partnerships and the installation of vehicle trackers in insured vehicles are now a common feature of vehicle insurance. This opens up vast opportunities to track stolen vehicles, but also to monitor driver behavior and incentivize best practices, as I've just mentioned. In the fleet management space, telematics can be similarly used to enhance vehicle safety. And this is absolutely critical in South Africa, where the transport sector, if you look at it, is facing significant safety challenges around vehicle theft, vehicle abuse, cargo theft, as well as xenophobia. And then connected mobility also offers the opportunity to improve the work experience and quality of life of long distance drivers. This can be done through reward programs, training modules, and the chance to stay in touch with family and colleagues via video conferencing. And therefore, an engaged employee on the road, making sure that there's a safety of vehicles, safety of cargo, but primarily the safety of themselves. And we've seen the recent spate of fleet truck attacks recently. But with this technology and connected mobility, they stay in touch, and therefore there's an element of safety and connectedness where they can communicate that should they encounter troubles and problems. And now if we can go to the next slide, where we'll now talk about the connected vehicle. So telematics is being used to improve mobility and to turn the vehicle into a connected hub that provides a suite of media, mobility services, while also generating data to further perfect the driving experience. Already, partnerships between OEMs and telematics companies have led to the connected cars that offer media services as well as safety, driver assistance, and automation improvements. Netstar has established such a partnership with Toyota. And to this effect, an article was actually published just yesterday on Top Auto. It is called Toyota Connect. Make sure you ask about it when buying a car, should you be interested in that read. The driver assistance function supported by telematics would include self-park, auto brake, adaptive cruise control, lane drifting alerts, hands-on autopilot, as well as low-speed automation. These are all the steps along the way to full vehicle automation. As adoption advances, insurers may start to tailor premiums according to the automation level of the customer vehicle. Factoring out the capacity for human error has significant safety benefits. And at some point, insurers may even insist on a certain amount of automation. And I'd actually recommend it in the case of Hagen, who, as I've said before, is an absolute horror on the roads. And just to give you a couple of different applications in terms of the other benefits of a connected vehicle, in the case of our partnership with Toyota, for example, is that there's an ecosystem of partners as well as stakeholders that will yield a benefit from these insights as well as data. And I must emphasize and actually mention that the custodian of that data is the owner, is the customer themselves, where they can volunteer that information through this ecosystem that I'm talking about. So let's walk through the journey of what I'm talking about. Is if a certain customer, for example, has bought a vehicle through a particular dealership, that dealership has an interest in retaining that customer in some form, shape, or other, where they would like to hail them back so that they can do service there. As we know that sometimes we buy a vehicle from one dealership, but because of where we work and the way that we move, we might services at another dealership within the same OEM structure. But now, if a dealership has insights in terms of that particular vehicle as well as how it's been driven, they can even have the ability of hailing it back for a service, even between milestones, if they see that that driven has been driven maybe more aggressively than the next one, such as Hagen's vehicle. Also, then the insurer has a vested interest in that vehicle in terms of how it's been driven, what's the driver profile, as well as then the OEM themselves in terms of how's the engine performing, how's the braking system, as well as all of the other vehicle diagnostics. So as they design future vehicles, they can use those insights to better the driver experience. But also the banker that's financed the vehicle potentially has an interest, is that when is that vehicle coming to term, and is there an opportunity for us to reach out to them to see if we can assist them with their future purchases or expansion. And therefore, you'll see that there's an ecosystem of stakeholders, as I've said, that could benefit from that particular data coming from the connected vehicle. And then lastly, my last slide that I'll share with you, if we can move to that one, Dineo, is then the big data challenge. And this is where I think data becomes a game changer, because modern driving already operates at the intersection of connectivity as well as mobility. The insurance industry is leveraging the data generated by telematics to enhance its service and improve efficiencies for customers as well as insurers. This is where data is power. The most effective players will be those who are best able to gather and interpret the oceans of data generated by devices, instruments, as well as the machinery connected to the Internet of Things. As such, established IoT and telematics operators such as Netstar are best positioned to advise on these opportunities, with many of us moving into the data storage and data exchange space, managing the data that our devices can generate. And with that, let me end my short presentation for you today and see if there's any comments, questions that we'll be willing to field. And then with that, to facilitate that session, I'll hand back to Hagen. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lindile. Some fascinating insights there, and just a few examples of the incredible opportunities that data now offers for insurance. I was slightly taken aback to be framed as a horror on the road, but I now take the opportunity to refute that. I haven't, in fact, been doing much driving, and for that reason have not sustained many traffic fines or anything over the last year or so. But of course, that's all hearsay evidence, and the real test and the real determiner of my driving performance should be data that has been gleaned from the Internet of Things and telematics. And my insurance premiums should be determined by my driving performance. So all of that is just an example of how telematics can inform insurance, and how the Internet of Things can generate data around our actual driving behavior and thus shape our insurance. So in that vein, I've got to thanks once again for everybody's questions. We're at the end of the formal presentation, so I'm going to look at a couple of questions, and then if anything else occurs to you, please post it in the chat. I see you guys using the chat and the Q&A. But we've got a question that asks, and I think perhaps Lindile would be, or Belinda, whoever feels most comfortable answering this question. It's around data. Is your data only supplied in raw form, frequency of use, distance traveled, etc.? Is any deeper analysis of the data provided between data variables? Indila, are you feeling up to it?
No, let me take that. So within the partnerships that will form with either an insurance firm or any of other partners or customers, they would then inform us in terms of how that they would like to receive their data. We have all of this data and we ingest it from a lot of these devices, as I've said, but how you like to receive it is exactly how we package it and report in the frequency that you prefer. So whatever those parameters are that you prefer to see that data in, we can ingest, analyze, and deliver it to you in the form that you so prefer.
Excellent. There's also been quite a bit of interest in the chat around the Toyota Connect partnership, which is essentially also around bringing telematics to OEMs, the original equipment manufacturers who make vehicles, so that telematics is no longer only an aftermarket product, but can be installed at source in factories and have telematics offerings tailored to the needs of each car maker. There's been a query around whether Toyota is looking at building telematics into quantum minivans. Lindile, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the Toyota partnership, where it's being rolled out, and to what extent it's going to appear in South Africa.
No, absolutely, Hagen. Thank you for that question. I mean, and it's a very good question in that we know that quantums form as part of the category of high-risk vehicles, for example. So that's why that question is coming in, and it's quite relevant. So from about October 2019, August, October 2019, we started to do the fitments of the in-car Wi-Fi with Toyotas. And therefore, from that point onwards, all vehicles, Toyota vehicles manufactured, have now come into the country fitted with the Netstar in-car Wi-Fi. And what that provides you is a variety of the features that I've just mentioned in my short presentation, such as productivity in the vehicle, entertainment in the vehicle for passengers, not for you, Hagen, while you drive. And then you can engage with all of this through the My Toyota app, for example. But what that provides is connectivity, primarily. You will still need, and if you go through the My Toyota app, you can request additional telematics solutions that will be listed there, and obviously that can be fitted with that. And obviously, we're mindful that it is a high-risk vehicle. So how we do then conduct the fitment is to ensure that we fit it in such a way that, one, it can provide the function, it can give stolen vehicle recovery, and it wouldn't be easy for the perpetrators to find those devices and be able to deactivate them. So we fit it in such a way that our recovery rate will be quite high as well. So it's just the in-car Wi-Fi, but then there is the option of getting any of our stolen vehicle recovery solution and telematic solutions with that upon purchase or even post-purchase as well.
Thanks, Lindile. Yeah, it's interesting. Connected mobility has become such a buzzword these days. I think a lot of us are used to the idea of your time in the car being a time away from connectivity. You sort of hop between your car and your office where you've got these little bubbles of connectivity. And I think connected mobility is around ensuring that you're connected at all times. Obviously, not watching DVDs while driving or anything, but there certainly are productivity benefits to being connected, and mobile Wi-Fi hotspots are certainly one of those.
Absolutely. I think, Hagen, just before you move on into the next question,
sure.
Perhaps there might be a question in terms of then how do I make sure that I've got the right stolen vehicle recovery solution in the vehicle. So if, for example, at the point of sale, you're buying the quantum that the question was about, you've got the opportunity of speaking with the F&I that is executing the sale for you. And that's so even at the OTP stage, when you still maybe just doing your analysis in terms of which is the best buy for you, you can ask those questions. The F&I will be able to help you with that. But if you've left with the vehicle, download the My Toyota app. You should be able to request the telematics services through that, and our technicians can either come out to you to do the fitment, or you can come to any of our other fitment centers, or even if you're close to our head office, can come and do the fitment in our office there. If the app is maybe not that convenient for you, you can call into any of our call centers, and I'll try to get the guys that are on the call here to share the details, Hagen, so that perhaps if you're already driving around in the Quantum or any of the Toyota vehicles, for example, you can reach out and still be able to conclude and get the necessary devices inside the vehicle. Thanks, Hagen.
Thank you, Lindile. Yes, we will provide that information after this webinar. Another question from Louise Curry, quite a pointed question. Perhaps, Belinda, perhaps you're in a position to answer this. Otherwise, Lindile. Louise asks, how will telematics in future impact drivers' claims and whether or not they are paid by an insurer? What are your thoughts on that, Belinda?
Okay. So the thoughts on that is our units and our information and our data are not there to catch somebody out. Remember, as insurers and brokers, you are actually there to pay valid claims and to mitigate loss that might be caused due to fraudulent claims and things like that, so you don't penalize the good citizens that you have on your book. So, I mean, as you know, in the market already, telemetry and telematics has been in the market for a very, very long time, and it's not to dishonor any claims. What we want to do with our telemetry, and that is to ensure the safety of our consumers, first and foremost, with regards to theft and hijacking, and then for the insurers to use the data to better analyze the risk of the driver and invalidating honest claims that need to be paid. So if there is an instance where, you know, there is a claim and, you know, if they do request, you know, the telematics information and they've seen that the person was at a pub for 6 hours before then and there was reckless driving, things like that. Remember, an insurer or a broker, you cannot pay out a claim that is illegal. And if the person was involved in illegal activities, there is no reason to pay out a claim. But the sole purpose of this is not about catching anybody out. It's about adding value, seeing what other perks, rewards, loyalty programs, and also how to be driving better, routing better. You know, if you look at telemetry, if you are driving from Pretoria to Midrand every day and there's an accident on the N1, your tracking device should be able to tell you, look, you know what, there's an accident on the N1, reroute rather, and it's going to save you 5 minutes. That's just an example. But what we've tried to do here is around the CPD and to ensure that the reps within insurance and in the broker space as well continue to get their CPD points in an efficient way, in an effective way. It's relevant to telemetry and telematics, and to see where we can add value. Through going through that, I mean, we want feedback as well from all of you that are going to be participating, to please give us feedback with regards to our programs that we've set up. If there's something more that you guys would want to see, let us table it, let us look at it, because we service you and you're our customers. So just to answer you, Louise, it's not to catch anybody out, not at all. I hope that answers the question. Thanks, Morgan.
It certainly seems to. Yeah, thank you so much, Belinda, for that very thorough answer. Another question that's come up. Thanks so much for your interactive feedback, guys. There's hundreds of us on here, and you're all contributing and helping to enhance this offering. Perhaps a question for Dr. Pillay. This one comes from Natasha Maroon, and she's asking about saying academic content is really available, but as a parent of teenagers, she's finding it difficult to engage digitally with her team and customers. And how is this new learning area affecting how we engage and impact digitally? Christian, did you get the question?
I did get the question, and it's indeed a very powerful question asked by Natasha, which I think is a whole segment on its own. But from my perspective, I think we always focus on the IQ element and the application element, and we very rarely focus on the EQ element. And this is what leads to it. How do we demonstrate that EQ element and that presence to online learning, to that human effect in negotiating? But what I found is there's a report by Jenny Miller from the Khan Academy, who has done an excellent course on that. I'm willing to, hopefully the links are available and free as a MOOC. I'm willing to share that because it will answer the question directly that Natasha has posed. So yeah, great question. It's a long answer.
Fair enough. Cool. Thank you for that question. Another question is around cybersecurity, and as we touched on, there's so much data being generated these days, especially with IoT, telematics, and the need to interpret that data to enhance services and value for customers. But of course, with all of this data, there's a need for data security. So, Yindile, do you have any insights around that and the management of data and the need for cybersecurity and data security, particularly when so many devices are generating data?
Absolutely, Hagen, and especially in this day and age where cybersecurity or cyber crimes have increased and are on the up and up. And we've seen a couple of organizations that have been attacked either through ransomware or any of these type of engagements. And therefore, we approach technology and cybersecurity and we take it extremely seriously. Firstly, to clarify that with regards to POPI, yes, the custodian of the data and the owner of the data and the rights, if it can be shared or not, belongs to the customer 100% of the time. So I think that's important to clarify. But then to the question in terms of how do we then protect against cyber crimes? And the approach is we use best-in-breed technologies and platforms to make sure that that data is securely stored. And the approach to storing that data and protecting is that you have to have various layers of protection. One is there must be perimeter cybersecurity protection. And then added to that, you must now add the protection of the processes themselves, where now there's encryption of the data as it flows from one endpoint to another. So one is perimeter, the second is the process, and then the third is user protection, in knowing who's got right and read access to that particular data, and having those parameters clearly set up in terms of user data, so that you can, one, prevent a lot of people getting access to that particular data, having right access to it, but then you'd be able to audit if there was any sort of inclination of that being misused or abused or shared in an incorrect manner, so that you prevent it even before it can happen. So there's a variety of measures that we put in place to make sure that the data is securely protected. But then the rights of the sharing of that information is still belonging to the customer as the main custodian of that information. So we're very compliant with the POPI Act, GDPR, and all of those various elements. Some of this data is stored in the cloud, and therefore those cloud parameters and encryptions, as well as process and value chain protections, are applied. And we do work with international best organizations to make sure that we protect this data. And we proactively monitor this to make sure that it's on the up and up. And because the reality, Hagen, is that the cyber criminals are also not sleeping. They're evolving their ways to intrude, and therefore we must also make sure that we evolve our ways of protecting. So we keep up with these on a regular basis.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Lindile. That is reassuring. I see we have come to the end of our hour, and thank you all for joining us. It just remains for me to reiterate the address for to apply for a CPD registration. It's on the screens before you. Perhaps you can access that if you have not applied already, or you can share it with your colleagues who may be interested. gifts.africa/netstar-CPD to apply today. And so thanks to all of our speakers, Dr. Kirsch Pillay, Belinda Felix, and Lindile Koko, the world's worst critic of Hagen Engler's driving. But it's been great to have you guys and to have you sharing your insights and your wisdom. Any further queries, please get in touch. I'd love to answer them personally. But again, you've got 2 minutes to squeeze in a comfort break and a coffee before your next meeting. So thank you everybody for joining us, and enjoy the rest of your day.